Welcome to Torres del Paine National Park. Located at the end of the world in the stunning Chilean Patagonia, Torres del Paine National Park, named a biosphere reserve by UNESCO and the eighth natural wonder, is a world of unique contrasts. Its magnificent mountains hide turquoise lakes and evergreen forests and vast ice fields. Patagonia's glaciers slowly molded this jagged landscape over millions of years, inching down from the southern Patagonian ice field that borders the park to the northwest. It is the larger portion of the Patagonian ice sheet, which originally covered all of southern Chile. This glacial erosion process is evident everywhere one looks, in its deep valleys, in the turquoise glacial lakes, in the glaciers hanging over sharp peaks and powerfully sitting in front of snow-capped mountains, and in the diverse ecosystem that thrives within the park. Approximately 225,000 hectares or 550,000 acres of pristine, untamed natural beauty sits in one of the most remote places in the world. The granite towers for which the park is named stand out on a horizon scattered with mountain tops. Grazing in the flat plains below, some of the world's largest populations of guanacos and pumas run freely. Here we see a male puma walking to greet its sister in the early morning hours. While there is still much to learn about the populations of pumas in the Americas, studies thus far conducted definitively demonstrate that the highest density of pumas occurs in Patagonia. Indeed, it is estimated that 50 to 200 pumas make Torres del Paine National Park and the immediate surrounding area their home. This comes to about 3.44 pumas per every 10,000 hectares. Looking at this map of southern South America and Chile in particular, let's try to get a better feel of exactly where we are geographically with respect to Torres del Paine National Park. Most visitors, us included, fly into the city of Punta Arenas, located in the southernmost portion of Chile. One then drives north by northwest of Punta Arenas to Torres del Paine National Park. Noting that pumas are very elusive and can only be viewed with any reliability in a handful of specialist locations, it is remarkable that they are most reliably found in the far south of their range, in the Torres del Paine area of southern Chile. On one particular farm, Refugio Laguna Amarga, which borders the national park, a team of dedicated researchers has been working with the local pumas since 2012. This is where we did all of our puma tracking. And we return once again to our brother and sister pumas greeting one another in the early morning sunlight. It is July and therefore winter here in the southern hemisphere. Note the frosty grass as evidence of this fact. Since the cessation of puma hunting in the Torres del Paine National Park and surrounding area, the cats have become increasingly relaxed to the presence of researchers and, more recently, to accompanied guests. Visitors staying for a minimum of 3 nights are virtually guaranteed a puma sighting. With adult males reaching 2.4 meters or 7 feet 9 inches in length, nose to tail, and weighing up to 100 kilograms or 220 pounds, pumas are the second largest cats in South America after jaguars, and the fourth largest species in the world after tigers, lions, and jaguars. They are also known as mountain lions, cougars, catamounts, and a host of other common names. From Mexico down to Central America and South America, this species is usually referred to as a puma, and so that is the name we shall use in this documentary. Pumas have an incredibly large range, which includes the western half of the USA from Alaska and almost all of Central and South America. Their natural home is mountainous areas, preferably with steep rocky slopes for protection and access to open grasslands and scrubland for hunting. However, they are very adaptive and can be found from high altitudes in the Andes Mountains to deep in the Amazon rainforest. Like most big cats, pumas are essentially solitary, with males spending most of their lives alone or in small sibling groups, whilst females are often found in the company of 2 or 4 cubs. Pumas hunt by stealth and rarely pursue prey over distances of more than a few meters or a few yards. They commonly take down prey over twice their size. Down in Patagonia, they prey mainly upon guanacos. If one takes a camel and takes away a hump or two, shrinks the animal down in size, and places it in South America, living as far south as Tierra del Fuego, what does one end up with? Well, a guanaco, of course, and that is what we are seeing here. Guanacos are related to camels, as are vicuñas, llamas, and alpacas. But they live in South America, while camels are found in Africa and Asia. Guanacos live in groups consisting of up to 10 females, their young, and a dominant male adult. Guanacos live in groups consisting of up to 10 females, their young, and a dominant adult male. Unattached bachelor males form herds of their own. These can include as many as 50 or more animals. When a female guanaco gives birth, her newborn, known as a chulengo, is able to walk immediately. Chulengos can keep up with the herd right away. Guanacos live on land high in the Andes Mountains, up to 13,000 feet, or 3,962 meters above sea level, as well as on the lower plateaus, plains, and coastlines of Peru, Chile, and Argentina. Guanacos were once hunted for their thick, warm wool. Now they thrive in areas protected by law. Returning now to the pumas, we can note that they have had the most extensive distribution of all American terrestrial mammals. In former times, they ranged from coast to coast in North America and from southern Argentina and Chile to southeastern Alaska. Extermination efforts, hunting pressure, and habitat destruction have restricted their range to relatively mountainous, unpopulated areas throughout much of their range. Populations in eastern North America were entirely exterminated except for a small population of Florida panthers. In recent years, puma populations have begun to expand into areas of human habitation, especially in the western United States. Pumas are now fairly common in suburban areas of California and have recently been sighted as far east as urban Kansas City, Missouri, where several have been hit by cars. Puma sightings in eastern North America outside of southern Florida are still more likely to be escaped or abandoned quote-unquote pet pumas or other large cats. As noted earlier, pumas use a wide variety of habitats, including montane coniferous forests, lowland tropical forests, grassland, dry bush country, swamps, and any areas with adequate cover and prey. Dense vegetation, caves, and rocky crevices provide shelter. Certain behaviors are common among all of the 41 cat species that are currently extant on planet Earth. And fastidiousness, as we can see here, is one of these. Indeed, grooming and keeping the fur clean is essential to the health of any cat species, pumas being, of course, no exception. Pumas are large, slender cats. The pelage has a short and coarse texture. The general coloration ranges from a yellowish-brown to grayish-brown on the upper parts and a paler, almost buffy color on the belly. The throat and chest are whitish. Pumas have a pinkish nose with a black border that extends to the lips. The muzzle stripes, the area behind the ears, and the tip of the tail are black. The eyes of mature animals are grayish-brown to golden. The tail is long, cylindrical, and about 1/3 of the animal's total length. And here we see a puma stealthily ascending a hillside, constantly maintaining awareness, no doubt, for prey that may be nearby. And here we see this same puma gazing along the hilltop towards a group of guanacos. And they seem to be gazing right back. It is essential that both predator and prey try to remain ever aware of one another for survival. And we see that our puma begins to walk towards the guanacos. But as there is still much daylight, and she knows that she may already be spotted by the guanacos, she chooses in the end to abandon this would-be hunt. And in case you're wondering just how close one can get to these pumas in the Torres del Paine National Park, this next scene should satisfy your curiosity. This female walked within less than 2 feet, or less than 2/3 of a meter, of us as she passed by. She was seemingly totally unperturbed at our presence. Our presence being comprised of our guide, another safari client, my wife, and me. And as you can see, she went right underneath my tripod. Good girl. Well, it's time we get familiar with a few of the other animal species that prominently occur in Torres del Paine National Park. Certainly one of the most famous and iconic of these is the Andean condor. As its name suggests, the Andean condor inhabits much of the Andes mountain range along the Pacific Coast region of western South America. It can be found from Colombia and northwestern Venezuela all the way south to Tierra del Fuego. The adult female seen here is readily distinguished from the male by her lacking a crest. Here we see a male with a crest on top of his head. This large scavenger can be seen soaring over high montane canyons and peaks throughout the Andes or along the coast in the southern part of its range. It often soars over open grasslands as it searches for food. With the longest wingspan of any raptor, Andean condors are built for soaring, and they do so effortlessly. Soaring makes it possible for them to fly for long periods of time without expending much energy. They only need to flap their wings occasionally. The rest of the time they are floating on air. When you see a soaring condor, notice that the tips of the wings are pointing up. This helps with soaring by reducing drag or air resistance. People who design airplanes have used the same feature on some airplane wings. Adult Andean condors are unmistakable with their large black bodies, white neck ruff, and featherless heads. Juveniles are grayish-brown with no white neck ruff. Of all the New World vultures, the Andean condor is the only one that shows sexual dimorphism. This being, as was already noted, the crest atop the male's head. However, there is another trait that distinguishes the sexes from one another, and this is the larger size of the male. Male condors are born with a white comb, and each one is unique. Biologists take photos of the male condors and learn to identify individuals by the pattern of wrinkles on their combs and faces. Males have yellow eyes, while the female eyes are red, and this is another distinguishing trait between the sexes. Andean condors, like other vultures, are principally carrion eaters, which means they eat animals that are already dead. However, some people who live in condor habitat have reported that these large birds occasionally take newborn animals, such as cows and goats. Andean condors search for prey by soaring far and wide, using their keen eyesight to spot a meal. They are also attracted to large congregations of other raptors or scavengers, as this usually means that there is a feast to be had somewhere nearby. Andean condors generally feed on large carrion, such as the remains of deer, cow, sheep, and the like, though they will eat smaller animals when they can find them. During the courtship season, the male works hard to impress the female. He walks around with wings spread, making all kinds of unusual and interesting sounds. When the night is right, the female lays one chalky white egg. Andean condors don't build their own nests. Instead, they lay the egg right on the substrate in a natural cavity in rock piles or in a cave high in a cliff. The embryo inside the egg needs a long time to develop. The female must incubate the egg for almost 2 months. Once the egg hatches, the nestling grows quickly. The parents must work hard to bring it enough food so that it will grow into a healthy bird. Condors can't carry food in their feet like most birds of prey. Instead, the adults store food for their young in their crop, a special pouch inside their throats where food sits before it travels to the stomach to be digested. When the adult returns to the nest, it regurgitates or throws up this food, which the young nestling happily eats. The offspring remains in the nest for 6 to 10 months until it is ready to fly or fledge. It will stay with its parents for several months thereafter, learning how to find food and survive on its own. Another notable raptor that we saw while driving from Punta Arenas to Torres del Paine National Park is the black-chested buzzard eagle, also known as the Chilean buzzard. The black-chested buzzard eagle is a resident of South America. In most regions throughout its range, it can be found soaring, hunting, or nesting in middle elevations and montane regions, even above the tree line. However, it does descend to the coast and lowlands in some parts of its range. This large hawk favors arid, open habitats in rugged terrain. The southern crested caracaras' preferred habitats include forest, low shrub areas, swamps, steppe, and marshes. It is a carnivore scavenger. Here we see a group of them feeding on the remains of a guanaco that was killed by a puma less than 24 hours ago. Notably, adult pairs of this species are generally monogamous and highly territorial. They exhibit strong site fidelity. Young remain with the parents for several months after fledging, and at some sites, 2 broods are raised per year. The white-throated caracara is a neotropical raptor found in Chile and Argentina. It prefers living in montane areas and at sea level in the southern parts of its range. It lives in open habitat and is often seen perched on high cliffs, hillsides, or fences. The austral pygmy owl occurs in southern South America from central Chile and west-central Argentina to the tip of Tierra del Fuego. Some populations winter in northern Argentina. In Chile, the species is present from sea level to 1,700, 1,800, and 2,000 meters of elevation. That's about up to 7,000 foot elevation. And in Argentina and Patagonia, mainly around 1,500 meters, or about 5,500 feet. The austral pygmy owl is a solitary hunter. It is mainly diurnal, but it can also be active at night. Several authors say that this species preys primarily on birds, such as white-crested Elenia, common Diuca finch, austral blackbird, austral thrush, and rock dove. This species typically nests in natural cavities in trees, banks, rodent burrows, and occasionally in buildings. It lays a single clutch per season. The torrent duck was seen in Torres del Paine National Park on the raging waters below the falls of the Paine River. This aptly named duck calls the torrential, raging rapids of rivers dotted by slippery boulders its home. Very few birds have, in fact, been able to adapt to such a fast-flowing stream environment. Torrent ducks are resident breeders in the Andes of South America, nesting in small waterside caves and other sheltered areas. Regrettably, this is a declining species due to competition for its invertebrate food from introduced trout as well as pollution, forest destruction, and damming of mountain rivers. The Patagonian fox is a small fox-like canid weighing from 2.5 to 5.45 kilograms, that is 5.5 to 12 pounds, and measuring 65 to 110 centimeters, or 26 to 43 inches in length, including a tail of 20 to 43 centimeters, or 8 to 17 inches. It occurs in Argentina and Chile in the southern cone of South America. The Patagonian fox diet consists mainly of mammals, birds, arthropods, bird eggs, reptiles, fruit, and carrion. It breeds in early austral autumn, around March. After a gestation period of 2 months, 2 to 4 kits are born in a den. Not much else is recorded about its lifestyle. Well, let's return to our Torres del Paine National Park top predator, the puma. And we see here that this individual is going to feed upon a kill. In fact, this kill was being shared by 4 pumas, 2 of whom were brother and sister. The puma is active mostly at dusk, night, and dawn. Throughout its range, its primary prey is hoofed animals, larger than itself. It is rare for pumas to feed on carcasses that they did not kill themselves. When hunting, a puma moves about 10 kilometers or 6 miles per night, hunting in several travel bouts averaging 1.2 hours each. Traveling alternates with shorter periods of stalking, waiting in ambush, or resting. Slower than most of its prey, the puma springs from cover at close range, usually from behind the intended victim. And here we see the guanacos assembling atop a small hill to observe their fallen comrade being consumed by the pumas. With regard to reproduction, we can note that pumas breed throughout the year, with a summer peak in births at high latitudes. The interval between births is about 2 years, but it is less if a litter dies or disperses early. Cubs are born after a 90-day gestation period. The litter size usually is 3, but ranges from 1 to 6. Spotted and born blind, each cub weighs about a half a kilogram, or about 1.1 pounds. The birth site, usually in nearby impenetrable vegetation, is kept free of feces and prey remains. It lacks any obvious modifications and is abandoned when the cubs are about 40 to 70 days old. Cubs are reared without assistance from adult males, which occasionally kill cubs that are not their own offspring. Cubs accompany their mother until dispersing at 10 to 26 months of age, but most die before they can fend for themselves. Upon surviving their first 2 years, juvenile females disperse about 9 to 140 kilometers. That's about 5 to 88 miles. It may take a year for them to become part of the breeding population, and during the transition, an individual may sequentially occupy and abandon 1 to 5 small transient home ranges. If a home range can be established, the cat can be expected to live another 7 to 11 years. Wolves and bears occasionally kill pumas and sometimes commandeer the carcasses of prey killed by them. Most deaths, however, are attributable to hunters, other cougars, or motor vehicles. Pumas live at low density, that is 1 to 5 per every 100 square kilometers, and thus, in order to survive, require large areas with sufficient prey and cover from which to ambush that prey. In a given region, there are about 2 adult females for every male. There is an extensive overlap between female home ranges, but very little overlap between territories of adjacent males. Home ranges vary greatly in size, but the average female territory is 140 square kilometers, or 54 square miles. with male territories being about twice as large.